APIU is a collection of people who are interested in the paranormal but also interested in history around Tasmania and globally. We feel that the paranormal is just another way of telling history. We're here to do that, and we're also here to investigate and validate people's experiences and hopefully bring more credibility to the field.
I think we're just enthusiasts, you know, we're not really focused on any one subject, well I call it anyway, so we do love the buildings, we love the site, we love the history, architecture, the stories, you know, we love the paranormal, so it's a package. I think APIU brings so many different aspects into what we do, and we're not just pigeonholed into being paranormal investigators.
Basically started investigating Willow Court, and in our time exploring the buildings back then, we had some pretty out there experiences, and it made us question things that we hadn't ever questioned before, and so we started exploring the field of the paranormal, and here we are today.
We started back in 2007, and it was just a bunch of, well, not even mates at that time, a couple of mates, but we met up and we started to explore the wards. Grew from there, from just exploring to the paranormal, to being on committees of council, to doing doco and to here today.
There was 4 of us at the time. It was Glenn Heavey, Sean Heavey, myself and Nicholas Jarvis. We were all basically separate, doing our own vlogs. We came to the site and we actually all met on the site, and we've all had experiences which are similar, and basically we just set out to basically validate those experiences and put them up on the net, and that's where the Australian Paranormal Investigation Unit started.
Researching the locations is a huge part of what we do. We spend a lot of time trying to track down reasons for things, especially when we're finished the investigation. After an investigation, we'll spend a lot of time doing that stuff, and so I look at myself as a researcher more than anything.
Well, it's hard because Willow Court, I'm both. I enjoy researching and I enjoy hunting. So, but if I went onto an investigation that was somewhere else other than Willow Court, I'd probably be more leaning towards a hunter. You know, you've got to have a little bit of research, otherwise you have no idea what you're going there to do and what you might come across. So, yeah, a little bit more hunter on non-Willow Court investigations.
Dream location changes about every other year. Previously it was always Waverley Hills Sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky. I investigated there twice. Basically now that I've done it, I'm kind of over it, and I've got a new one which is would be Gracelands.
Instinctively I think everyone thinks of Waverley Hills. I don't know, you know, I'm enjoying doing stuff here, and you know, I guess wherever the opportunity takes me, I'm happy to go and check it out. If it's got a history of paranormal stuff, then I'm happy to go in and investigate.
Yeah, do you want to take lead on asking some questions, mate?
I'll ask the first couple of questions and then someone else can continue on.
No worries.
Recording?
Yeah, good to go, mate.
Cool. So, hello, my name's Nick. So we've come here to have a chat, see if you'd like to tell us a story about, I don't know, your experiences here. So we're not here to hurt you or harm you in any way, so if you'd like to just give us a sign that you're here, maybe tell us something about yourself, interact with some of the other technology we have around. Were you a patient here? Were you one of the nurses in this area? Were you a doctor?
Question. Someone got a phone on or something? Because that K2 meter is going off.
Is it? There's a lot of noise up here. Mine's on.
Mine's on
Mine's on
aeroplane.
Mine's my bag. So.
Mine's an airplane.
I'll just
Make
triple
note of
check.
that, guys.
Not bad, no. And it's stopped again, so.
Scariest moment. I've got a few. Last year, my partner and I went to the US. We stayed at Myrtle's Plantation, which is a plantation built in the 1700s. We were staying there for the night. We weren't actually investigating, and we just heard clear voices. It was just something I've never had that experience with, like that clear and just precise, like you could tell what they're actually saying. And it was just an experience which basically rebooted my interest in the paranormal after, at that stage, 9 years of investigating. So.
A couple of years ago in Lypreni Ward, I think actually, and we did a couple of loans up there, and I think I was at the top level, right towards, sort of in the middle I suppose, so a long corridor and I was in the middle of it. And I heard a couple of loud noises, a couple of loud bangs, and initially I just thought it was one of the other guys, mucking around downstairs, but I soon realised that it wasn't, and I was sort of stuck in the middle of a corridor and had to work out which way I was going to go because it pitch black dark and I heard this massive noise. So I suppose that was one of the moments that, because you've got to go down one side of the stairs, the far end of the stairs, the other stairs, then walk down the stairs, back out on the bottom level, then back out the door. There was I was sort of stuck at the hardest spot. So that was probably the scariest part, working out which way I was going to go to get out of there. And it definitely had some hairs in the back of my neck standing up.
Investigating isn't always about the scariness. People associate scary situations with the paranormal and spirits, and I'd have to say that it's not really that. It's probably the opposite. Intense is probably a better word than scary if you want to look at that. There's been a lot of intense moments that we have, especially around the personal feelings you get when you're doing certain investigations. And yeah, I'd have to just say a few of the earlier on investigations, especially what got us into APIU, they would be the most intense times.
The best times that I had at what I caught anyway were the very early days when we had basically the run of the whole site, and we'd spend 6-7 hours up here and we'd just go from ward to ward to ward, and back in those days Royal Derwent side was still open, so the times that I cherish the most were actually just kicking around the wards, exploring, documenting, doing some investigation, not necessarily capturing anything, but just being given the opportunity to look through those wards that are long gone now has been my most treasured memory, and something I always look back to and wish we could do again.
My best investigation, I would have to say, would be filming the documentary here for Willow Court. It was the largest investigation that we've ever taken on as a group. It went over 5 nights of investigating the place and doing different experiments and just trying to capture a whole bunch of stuff. And so it was a huge undertaking. And so for us to be able to do that successfully was a fantastic experience for us.
My investigation style is basically logical. I want to debunk what is clearly not paranormal. I'll basically use just normal, daily, everyday equipment, so your video camera, your voice recorders. We do go a bit into EMF meters and other tools, which are our secondary items, but we sort of keep it very down to earth.
I just try and be relaxed, trying to ask questions. I try and keep things, factual and scientific as I can. Keep into account all the environmental factors that might occur during investigation. So, I enjoy using equipment as well. But if you don't have a little bit of knowledge about how to use the equipment, but also ask the right questions. So I just try and keep it casual and relaxed and go in and see what happens, really.
It's always about logically looking at the situation and the environment that you're in, making sure to take into account all external factors that you can. If you're with other people, keeping an eye on what everyone's doing, because if you can't keep track of everything that's going on, you can never validate the stuff that we get when we're in review. So just things like announcing to our recording equipment that someone's walking around, or that we've got a car driving by, or a bird or something. We're making sure that we're logically keeping track of all that to make it easier on the other end to work out if we've got something that we can't explain. Favourite piece of equipment? I would have to say just a voice recorder. We get a lot of EVPs, and so I always love just making sure I've got some type of audio recording device on me. Being able to have real-time recording and listening to everything that we can't hear that these microphones can, it adds another element to our investigations, and it's just fantastic.
Probably just the standard old video camera, to be honest. Visual evidence is obviously the best evidence. It's the most simple. You can debunk, it's easy to carry, it's obviously cheap and easy to get for the masses, and that's ideally what you want when you're capturing evidence, to get a visual.
I'm actually really enjoying using the Ovilus at the moment, actually. And a lot of the people on the tools that we've had already, that's their go-to piece of equipment, because it mightn't be the most factual piece of equipment out there, but it's very interesting, and the people on tour love it because it gives them real-time possible answers to things. Mind you that we've had a couple of good validation things through the Ovilus. I think at the last investigation we were standing there in a room and it said, I think Carol or something, a name. And lo and behold, I didn't know this, but lo and behold, right next to us there was this sign that said Carol or something, a name. I'm thinking, how the hell, what's the chances of the Ovilus picking up that name and the name being right there on the wall? And I think that name occurred the tour before that as well. So that sort of name has happened a couple of times. So it's a cool piece of equipment, and one I'm enjoying using at the moment.
Teacher. Oh, I'm a teacher. You are a teacher. Change. Yeah, you agree.
Yeah, you got to turn into a paranormal ghost hunter.
Well, it's Carol.
Who's Carol?
Carol. Sad.
There's
Oh, yeah.
I had Carol before on the Spirit Box.
And
Carol's there.
Did it just say Carol on that? Did it?
Yeah.
Fair dinkum.
Express.
Wow.
Who's sad?
Carol, I'm sad.
Who's sad? Carol, I'm sad, and it's expressed itself. Who's sad? Carol.
You've got to take it seriously. It's not a joke, and you've got to be respectful of the sites that you're investigating. Because 9 times out of 10, the only reason you're on site is because someone's allowing you to be there, and so you've got to be really professional and respectful in the way you go about being on site.
We're probably not all crazy. We do this logically. Most of us, 90% of investigators go in there to disprove. We're not going in there to jump around at any little noise that gets created, which could be natural, which more than likely is natural. So we're looking for that one piece of evidence which validates a claim of the location.
it can be done in a respectful way and a sensitive way. And that's what we do here. You know, we try and be as professional as we can, so people just think we're just guys off the street who have no experience at all. You know, we try and provide the most professional sort of tour that we can and be respectful and sensitive.
For an investigation, we'll get in there and we'll have a chat with the owner or the stakeholders in the site, and just trying to get a bit of feeling around the types of occurrences they're having on site. Getting myself in that mindset for an investigation, they can be very draining. You've got to be really relaxed in these situations because they go for hours. We could be there for 6, 7, 8 hours in the dark. So getting yourself mentally prepared for that is a big thing. And then after, just review. Because we use so many pieces of equipment, reviewing can take a long time, and it's easy to miss some of these smaller pieces of evidence that we get. So
I think it's a pretty standard thing which most people in APIU do is I like to, I guess, walk around the site firstly, look for any safety hazards, look for any potential environmental factors that might disturb or interrupt what we're doing, and so we can at least factor those in when we're investigating. So that's the very first thing, and I guess from there it's just chatting with your colleagues and getting an idea of what we're going to do first, and who's going to go where and what equipment we're going to use, making sure that everything's charged up and ready to go, and just get out there and get it done. And then the hard part comes when you've got a review. Just
knowing your movements, like the smallest thing in an investigation, you're moving while you're doing an EVP session can come through a voice recorder as a voice or footsteps from somewhere where you did not hear at the time, which you think is paranormal when you're reviewing. So it's basically movements, knowing your environment and what's around you.
The hardest thing about being a paranormal investigator is being taken seriously. We do this because we love doing it and we enjoy doing it, and most people don't see that. They just see us going in with a camera and trying to scare the crap out of each other, or we're not being there for the right reason. So being taken seriously is really hard.
Probably the process of After Dark night tours and the documentary we produced, just the amount of red tape you have to go through as an investigator to investigate an abandoned place like this, and also just to sometimes just to defend yourself from public statements about you which are clearly not true and which don't need to happen.
There have been some teams in the past that have ruined it for others, so they haven't shown respect for the site or for the people that they're investigating for, and they've ruined it for fellow investigators, or just the reputation's been ruined. So that's the challenge, one of the challenges anyway.
The biggest challenge that I see is just being able to, for lack of a better term, lock down these locations. It's really hard to be able to take out all environmental factors when we're trying to run these experiments, and so I find that is probably the hardest thing about investigating a location.
Eliminating exterior elements, so noises, sounds, and basically getting access to the location. Like most of the locations we do are businesses, so it's working around their hours.
When you've got certain people just sort of hell-bent on stopping you from investigating, whether they say it's disrespectful or insensitive, or a lot of times they don't know what you're doing, so they're just judging you on the fact that you could be some sort of scary sideshow freak who wants to look for monsters and ghosts. Well, that's not what we're about.
This room's for operating theatre.
I'd use this for performing the procedure where they'll take the patient's ribs out. They'll take 4 to 8 out, but not all in one sitting. So they'll do 2, then they would obviously rest them, take a further 2 out. The procedure only had a 5% survival rate. So it's where they'll sterilise all the surgical equipment.
I think what frustrates me the most is certain teams, the lack of credibility. Teams that show a lack of respect for the site that they're investigating, lack of respect for other teams or stakeholders in the area that they, and I guess the big thing it sort of irritates me is, I guess when teams are only out there to sort of promote themselves, not out there to actually uncover the truth or unlock what's hidden in the paranormal. They're more out there to expose themselves for egos.
Basically the unnecessary beefs, the turf wars, the egos, there's no need for it. We're all in the same field trying to achieve the same outcome. I think more openness and less egos will probably make this field a lot better than what it currently is and has been for the last 10 years.
Lack of camaraderie between the different groups that do this. We pride ourselves as being a TAPS family member, so we think having that international group of people that we can rely on if we need help is great, but at a local level, even in Australia, that's not really there, and so. Yeah, it can be really frustrating not having that. I get a huge amount of motivation around learning the stories and the history of the locations that we're going to. I find them fascinating, and so I would have to say it's learning the history of these places.
My love for history, my love for this site, experiencing the unknown and validating the experiences I've had in the past.
To try and capture something, I guess. And to try and add a little bit more weight, hopefully in the side that there is paranormal, which I think there is, but we're always trying to get that one piece that's sort of that really, really credible little bit of information. That's what I guess motivates me to keep trying.
Are you a male or a female?
I don't know, like 3 bands, isn't it?
Yeah.
It almost sounded like you, Aiden.
Well, I've heard that a bit somewhere. People that sound like me.
Did someone just mimic Aiden's voice?
Do you like me?
It almost said FU.
Yeah, that's what I thought it said.
There's a lot of work in it, and it's not just about investigating the paranormal. It's about the research on the places that I've spoken a fair bit about. It's about the professionalism and the respect that you show the sites that you're in and the people that are there. It's all of the above. It's the review. It's the cold. It's all of it. You've got to want to be there, and you've got to want to have the motivation to do it. Otherwise, just give up.
It's not rocket science, but you have to be prepared for spending a lot of time staring at a wall, asking questions of thin air. So sometimes it can be boring. If you have a quiet night, you've spent several hours just talking to yourself really, and then you've got to go back and go through hours of footage. just to try and hopefully get that little, one little 30 seconds or 10 seconds or even a second worth of credible footage of potential evidence. So, yeah, it's not for everybody, but it's not hard, but it's not easy.
You sometimes have to justify yourself as to why you do it, even though sometimes you don't need to justify it's what you do. It's probably not. The field's very against each other. It's almost like it tries to implode itself. So no, it's not.
I can't give you any one fact. I think all history around these places is fascinating, and so yeah, I can't give you just one thing. It's all fascinating to me.
I think it's about exploring buildings that a lot of people don't get the chance to have a look at. So having the opportunity to go into a building that has paranormal stories or reports about, it's a pretty unique experience that only a few people get to have.
We had one several years ago where we'd learned that Martin Cash was at this location at one point. After talking, trying to elicit a response, we actually heard an audible EVP. We've captured that and it sort of fits in with the story behind it.
What was that?
Yeah, I heard that too. What's that?
What the hell is that?
What is it? That's talking, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't.
What was the question we asked? And then what was the question?
What's your name?
I can't.
It's something talking, isn't it?
The future for APIU is definitely in after dark night tours. It's always been a goal of ours to do these types of tours, but it's also a way of furthering validations that we've had, other people have had, bringing new people in so they experience what we don't experience, and also to just continue investigating, find definite proof of the paranormal and also help out families in our private sort of sector of investigating. And
given that what I call is starting to become more open to the public and businesses are moving in, so it's a lot harder to actually investigate here now than it was a couple of years ago. So the future for us is to hopefully do investigations here still, but focus a lot more on the tours, and also we'll do our other investigations at other locations throughout Tassie and Australia.
APIU over the last 10 years has evolved quite dramatically from just being a group of people going into abandoned buildings and exploring with no real purpose. These days we're a lot more structured in the way that we do our investigations, and we spend a lot of time researching the history and of the locations that we're at. History plays just as big a role as the actual paranormal events that we're trying to debunk or we're trying to capture evidence of. And so with that in mind, the future will just be going down that track a bit further. We'll be making sure that history plays a really large part in everything that we do, and make sure that we have a purpose as to why we're investigating the paranormal.